Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us on this week's episode of the Incident Management Cafe. I'm Cam Srikanth, and I'm here with my co-host, Robert Crum. Hey, Bob, how's it going?
Doing good, Cam.
Awesome. So today, we really wanted to talk about customer experience. And I think that in what we always refer to as an always-on environment and always-on ecosystem, that people want things and people want them now. They don't want to wait to click the add to cart button on their Amazon purchase. They don't want to they don't want to wait as soon as they click play on the new episode of Game of Thrones. At this point, people want things, and when they demand things that are digital, they want them now. So customer experience has been a critical portion in terms of driving the entire process of product improvement, marketing, and has tied in essentially multiple facets of product development, whether it's marketing, sales, solutions, development, together in a way that actually allows us to derive actionable insight for customers. So we want to talk a little bit about the future of customer experience. And with that, Bob, I will hand it off to you.
Sure. So, Cam, I know you've done a lot of research on this. So I'm going to shoot the question over to you. So, Cam, I hear a little bit about the future of customer experience involving personalization,
Mhm.
not necessarily automation. Could you talk about that a bit?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that it's fairly polar in the way that people judge it. If something is automated, then all of a sudden it's not personal and you're receiving an automated chatbot that's replying to you each time. Or on the other hand, if it's personalized, that you have a person individually replying to each and every hello that you received your support inbox. And I think that the future of customer experience is somewhere in the middle. Automate what you can and what will facilitate an easier mechanism of providing customers the information that they're looking for, but then personalize it in the sense that each use case is different. A customer expects some level of interaction from their vendors or service providers in order to truly satisfy that their use case, that their scenario is accounted and cared for. So that personalization is never going to go away. But with that said, it's not going to be possible to provide that with automation. So it's not binary. It needs to be some level of a hybrid. So maybe in the case you do have a chatbot for customer feedback or potential product improvements, that the first message that is responded to is an automated message that provides a series of routes or paths that the customer can take until they reach the right person, at which point a person jumps in and carves out a more personalized answer to their initial query. So I think that it definitely starts with automation as a mechanism of expediting just manual repetitive tasks, but then personalization when it actually comes down to the nitty gritty of resolving an individual's issue there.
Sure. So, as always with new technologies, or actually not just technologies, but a sort of a new approach to marketing, um, is this sustainable? Is it a how are the marketing departments going to deal with this? How do they see this in the
Yeah,
future?
absolutely. And I would argue that the customer experience exists as a baseline for another path of marketing, a new set of campaigns. Customer experience is direct feedback from customers as far as what they resonate with and then what they would like to see. And from a channel of organizations that already see value within a product, in order to capture their feedback to enhance it is substantially more viable than purely paying for acquiring customers or paying for acquiring leads. Because at that point, there's some level of soft contact, but not any guarantee that the buzzword that triggered your organic search result to rank higher, or potentially that triggered your paid ad to pop up on Google, truly resonates with that market. There's already some level of baseline that exists within existing customers. So the evaluation that they provide, the feedback that they provide is substantially actually more viable and valuable to an organization to draw more business as well as draw product improvements from a competitive advantage perspective with that base.
So a lot of this involves a lot of data, right? Because we're talking about analyzing data. Can you talk a little bit about what that means?
Yeah, 100%. And I think that a lot of marketing and customer experience tools are now starting to make headway, but haven't actively been integrated in a lot of IT organizations. McKinsey recently did a study of about 250 customer experience leaders across US-based companies, and they quite a bit of them, above 90%, said that they definitely have a survey-based approach to gather customer satisfaction. 15% said that they were actually satisfied with how their company was measuring customer experience, and only about 6% mentioned that they have both strategic and tactical decision-making insights that are actionable from the type of data that they capture. So the capturing of data is critical, but what's important there is being able to identify the points at which data should be captured, as well as the points at which it actually drives a level of information around customer usage. So maintaining a customer level data lake is pretty much critical for any digital organization. So being able to aggregate data based on sizes, based on the location, the interactions or transactions that they have with your specific tool, and that in unison with things like customer survey data, in unison with things like new feature adoption, are truly going to produce the insight necessary that's going to dictate where you're going to put your product money, where you're going to put your marketing money, and where you require either improvement or more focus.
Great. So can you talk a little bit about some of the analytics, some sort of algorithms
Mhm.
that are necessary?
Yeah, absolutely. So once you have a baseline of some level of survey information, as well as your customer data lake streamlined with information across the sources of interaction, your CRM, maybe your system with respect to maybe your billing system, as well as your product and product interactions as a whole. The next step is to kick it up a notch to make sure that you are able to gather some of these insights prior to a human running reports and analyzing a trend for 4 or 5 months. So building out a predictive model and generating an arbitrary scaling system for customer usage or customer evaluation starts to become critical. And that predictive portion of it is what's going to kick it up a notch from purely the data aggregation and manual data analysis. So being able to put in some level of machine learning or simply a neural net that self-corrects on various parameters to dictate that X, Y, and Z metrics dictate or indicate this percentage of customer satisfaction in these portions of the application or in specifically these features. So being able to have a more predictive model changes the way that you think about customer experience from a standpoint of reactive to proactive. So not actively waiting for someone to tell you that something should be improved or they're looking for something else or they're looking in the wrong spot, but for you to be aware of that before they might even know that that is the case. So I think that that predictive model is truly going to drive customer experience from a large perspective.
Interesting. All right. So finally, you've got all this stuff. You've invested in it. You've changed your direction. You've gathered a lot of data. You're developing and tweaking your algorithms. Let's talk about how do you use this? How does it go into action?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that action really has two pieces to it, right? One is interconnectivity, and the second is process, both of which are equally important. So now that we have a data lake, we've got something that has all of our relevant data across our systems. Now we need to redistribute that to all of our other systems that might be missing various pieces of the information. So being able to stand up APIs to both retrieve and push data across your tool chain is highly critical, because that could subsequently trigger automations, which is where the process piece comes into play. So if your CRM is set up with a workflow to say that anytime a deal is marked as growth opportunity, based on that growth opportunity tag, a workflow might kick off to automatically put these customers on a drip campaign, notify their corresponding customer success managers, as well as the sales individuals that were initially involved in closing the deal. And that initial check was run as a byproduct of some flag that our predictive model picked up from our data lake. Similarly, in the case that we would need to automatically notify a customer success agent that usage has been dipping over the past 2 weeks very consistently as a threat of churn. That indication, once again, comes back from that consolidated data lake, and then facilitating your APIs, pushing that into the corresponding system that's capable of sending alerts and triggering any subsequent automations, maybe even to directly interface with the customer there. So the process around the actual data migration and movement from tool to tool, and the actual process in itself as far as what actions must be taken by what specific agents during during an event, right? Whether that is a tag in a CRM being marked or because of a usage drop, whatever those triggers might be, being able to iron out the process, having the mechanism to deliver that data will be critical, because that is where the alerting and notification piece comes into play. Once you have your process ironed out, getting in touch with that right person at the right time through the right means of communication, using the right systems by which they can track their data easily, is one, seamless, and two, reduces the time necessary to actually reach back out to customers.
Sounds good.
Awesome. Well, thank you everyone for joining us on this week's episode of the Incident Management Cafe, and we will see you all next time.